Hello love story recap team. We have made this drama before, but as you noticed, all my videos were deleted, so I decided to remake this drama that you loved. But this time, I'm using different names to allow you to more understand it, as we have a lot of characters with similar names that you found it difficult to figure out last time. I hope you enjoy the drama. Rose is a renowned journalist at Financial Weekly and recently missed out on an opportunity for an interview. She made a decision to enhance her interview skills to better prepare for interviewing Jack, the CEO of Mingyu Cloud Creation. Despite learning that Emily had been recommended by the chief editor to interview Jack instead, Rose remained determined to improve her skills. She firmly believed that only through competency could she produce exceptional articles, prompting her to commit to diligently working on her interview techniques. On the contrary, Jack was invited for an exclusive interview by the Financial Journal. He believed that an interview should be a thought-provoking discussion and self-assessment. However, he was not satisfied with the journalist Emily recommended by the Financial Journal and preferred the interview outline provided by Rose. Rose had a meeting with the chief editor, Sally. Even though she was initially disappointed about not being able to interview Jack, she saw it as a chance to spend time with her boyfriend on his birthday. But Sally informed Rose that Mingyu Cloud Creation had ultimately selected her to interview Jack. Rose then decided to skip celebrating her boyfriend's birthday and instead take advantage of the rare opportunity to interview Jack. Jack inspected his schedule and instructed his assistant to organize the interview location for Rose at his family's former estate. Rose called her boyfriend, John, to let him know about the last-minute change and mentioned she had been preparing for the interview for 2 months. Although John was a little disappointed, he supported Rose's commitment to her work. Just as Rose was about to head out for the interview with Jack, assistant Robert informed her of the time change. Not wanting to miss out on the upcoming feature in the publication, Rose found out that Anthony was hosting a dinner at Warner Mansion and decided to visit Jack. Rose arrived at Warner Mansion with hopes of interviewing Jack. Her request was passed on to Jack by assistant Robert, who sadly informed her that he couldn't do the interview that evening. He arranged for a car to take Rose back home instead. During dinner, Rose overheard a conversation about Arthur, learning that Arthur was on track to become the youngest professor at the School of Economics. Despite suffering from menstrual discomfort, Arthur kindly brought Rose a cup of hot water. They briefly discussed economics, leading Rose to ask for Arthur's contact information. Assistant Robert prompted Jack to notice Rose, but their interaction was interrupted by the sudden arrival of Anthony. Anthony presented Arthur as the strategic consultant for the Guan family and facilitated the introduction between Arthur and Jack, and planned to work together for their common success. Rose stood in the rain waiting for her boyfriend, John, to pick her up. Following the dinner, Jack noticed that Rose was still there and wanted to offer her a ride. However, Rose misunderstood his intentions and thought he was trying to start a conversation. She politely turned down his offer, mentioning that she already had a boyfriend. Not knowing that he's actually Jack, John lifted Rose and expressed remorse for not being able to celebrate her birthday with her. Upon returning home, Rose realized she had forgotten her phone in John's car. After tracking the phone's location, she discovered it was at the hospital. Concerned for John's well-being, she hurried to the hospital only to witness him kissing another woman at the entrance, leading her to the realization that he had betrayed her. John found the bracelet left by Rose near the car after they parted ways, realizing that she had found out about his betrayal. He rushed to look for Rose. He immediately proposed a breakup, stating that he loved Rose but couldn't handle their current lifestyle of hard work and didn't share her aspirations. He explained that his new partner came from a wealthy background, making it easy for him to be with her without much effort. After the breakup, Rose was heartbroken and reached out to her friend Sarah to express her emotions about her ex-boyfriend. She found solace in sharing her feelings with Sarah and decided to channel her sadness and frustration into determination. Rose made a decision to focus on pursuing Jack at work as a way to move on. The following day, Rose went to the Financial Journal to speak with the chief editor, Sally, explaining that she was unable to meet with Jack the night before. She promised to reach out to assistant Robert to set up a new interview appointment. Rose felt hungry and decided to stop by a bakery. Much to her surprise, she encountered John and his new girlfriend, Mary. Rose made a sardonic remark about Mary's apparent interest in second-hand goods. While outside the bakery, she mistakenly thought Jack's car belonged to Mary's uncle. Jack had just finished organizing work matters when he noticed Rose approaching his car and starting a conversation. Rose was taken aback to find Jack inside the car, prompting her to change her story and state that she had come specifically for an interview request. However, Jack turned down her proposal and advised her to contact his assistant to schedule the interview. Rose reached out to Sarah to gather information on Jack's family relationships and discovered that he did indeed have a niece, and she mistakenly thought that Jack's niece is John's new girlfriend. In the days that followed, Rose made several attempts to arrange a meeting with assistant Robert. However, Jack was occupied with late-night work every day, making it difficult to schedule an interview. Jack finished his tasks for the week early and had assistant Robert schedule an interview with Rose for the next day's lunch break. Emily heard Rose finalizing the interview time with Jack and, feeling envious, took Rose's interview outline in secret. Sarah suggested to Rose to dress nicely and impress Jack during the interview. Emily arrived at Cloud Creation ahead of time for an interview with Jack. Jack mistakenly believed that Rose had an urgent matter and sent a colleague instead for the interview. Rose later arrived at Cloud Creation and was shocked to see that Emily had already checked in for the interview at the front desk. Upon questioning assistant Robert, Rose discovered that Emily had conducted the interview with Jack on her behalf. Rose met Jack at Cloud Creation and asked for a second interview, inquiring about the company's future with 5 questions. Upon hearing her questions, Jack agreed to proceed with the interview. Due to Jack's sporadic absences, the interview took place during a 2-hour car ride, which was suitable for both parties. During the journey, Rose and Jack introduced themselves and officially got acquainted. Rose then started recording the interview with Jack. After the interview concluded, Jack instructed Rose to depart. Upon observing the isolated surroundings near the racecourse, Rose opted to request a ride from Jack instead. She had planned to inquire about Jack's relationship status, but he remained silent. Arthur's father happened to spot Jack with Rose. Rose seized the moment and stayed behind at the racetrack. Guan Xiangqing discovered that Rose was unfamiliar with horse riding, so he loaned her his wife's riding attire. In an attempt to catch Jack's eye, Rose intended to seek his help in adjusting her belt. However, Jack misunderstood her intentions as playful and departed unexpectedly. Rose requested Jack to instruct her in horseback riding, leading to them riding together for a session. Jack deliberately urged the horse to leap, causing Rose to become frightened and eventually abandon horse riding altogether. During their discussion, Guan Xiangqing also brought up the fact that Emma had come back to China and proposed considering his niece for a reporter position since she studied journalism. Initially, Jack was hesitant about having his less experienced niece become a reporter, but after witnessing Rose's dedication, he agreed to provide Emma with an opportunity. During their return journey, Jack requested the driver to take Rose to her house. Rose was taken aback by the fact that Jack didn't invite her for a meal, and she slept in the car because she was exhausted, and upon waking up, she realized that Jack had already departed. Feeling disappointed by his lack of hospitality, she couldn't resist expressing her dissatisfaction. The following day, Rose gave her interview transcript to Sally. She suggested adding an audio recording of Jack in the online magazine to pique the reader's interest in him. While walking down the street, Rose unexpectedly encountered her former boyfriend. John not only showed off his new car, but also mentioned that he would be commencing work at Mingyu in a few days. Sarah was unable to tolerate his behavior and taunted him, causing John to leave in annoyance. Upon learning that Rose had left something in Jack's car, Sarah suggested using it as a chance to build a closer connection with him. Rose phoned assistant Robert and reached out to Jack to assist in locating her missing earring. She emphasized the significance of the earring, mentioning that it was an important heirloom from her grandmother and a part of her dowry. Upon examining the earring, Jack playfully remarked that it appeared to be made of plastic. Despite his comment, he agreed to allow Rose to collect her earring and shared his whereabouts with her. Upon returning home, Jack found his niece, Emma, and instructed her to remain in his room without coming out. During a visit to Jack's house, Rose noticed a photo of Song Leland and mistakenly assumed she was his idol. Rose saw Jack looking attractive at home as he made lemon water for her, causing her to develop a crush on him. Surprised to learn about Jack's niece being present, she hurriedly left to avoid an awkward encounter. Emma expressed a desire to study in another country, mentioning that her family was financially stable and she had the means to enjoy life. She made excuses to avoid work, but Jack asserted that laziness was not tolerated in their family and denied her plea. In the early morning, Jack convinced Emma to go to work by threatening to reduce her expenses if she refused. Emma reluctantly agreed as she had no other option. After breakfast, Jack drove his niece to Financial Digest for work. Upon reaching the company, Rose was tasked with mentoring a new intern, who was revealed to be Emma. Unaware of Emma's true identity, Rose assumed she was a wealthy second-generation individual. Reluctantly, Rose agreed to mentor Emma after Sally specifically asked her to do so. After that, Emma gave Rose a present with the hope of gaining her favor, but Rose refused the gift and instead gave her some tasks to complete. She also requested Emma to update her before leaving for the day. Emma came back home after a long day at work and vented to her grandfather about how tired she was from working. She acted as if she was being mistreated, saying that her supervisor refused to help her learn. Jack found out that Rose was Emma's supervisor and suggested that Emma should take the opportunity to learn from Rose instead of focusing too much on feeling like a victim. Meanwhile, Sarah came across Anthony in the bar by chance flirting with two girls, which made her harshly scold him. Rose's article successfully underwent the last editorial assessment, yet Jack was displeased and did not give her approval. Despite making multiple changes to her interview transcript, Rose received it back for additional revisions. Sally advised Rose to figure out a way to satisfy Jack, as the submission deadline was rapidly approaching. Rose got Jack's contact information from Sally, but was unsuccessful in reaching him after several tries. She then asked Assistant Robert to assist her in contacting Jack, but Assistant Robert conveyed Jack's message that he wasn't available to discuss personal matters during work hours and declined to meet with Rose. Rose understood that she had a legitimate reason to see Jack for both business and personal matters, as she needed to talk about revising her article. Meanwhile, Jack, upon completing his tasks, noticed the time and opted to head back home to wait for someone to come over. Upon returning to the residential area, Jack encountered Rose and feigned ignorance about her purpose for being there. He inquired as to why she had come. Rose suspected that Jack had refused her article 3 times purely to interact with her. Jack refuted the notion of seeking a meeting with Rose and instead highlighted the flaws in her previous drafts. Rose acknowledged the shortcomings in her article and sought Jack's input to assist with revisions. Rose revised her article based on feedback from Jack, who requested her to come to his home for the revisions. While making changes at Jack's place, Rose observed that he did not seem impressed by her appearance, which made her feel somewhat disheartened. After that, in an attempt to persuade her uncle, Emma purchased a bottle of good wine hoping it would help. However, when she called Jack, she discovered that he was unavailable to meet her. Anthony suspected that Jack was meeting a girl, and Emma was amazed by her uncle's romantic life starting to bloom. After several revisions, Jack approved Rose's article because it was late. Rose was excited and suggested to Jack that she should be considered for a special feature interview. She also hoped that her article would be published in the electronic magazine Finance Digest. With the article matter settled, Jack took the opportunity to ask Rose if her boyfriend had any concerns about her coming home late. Rose straightforwardly explained that she had broken up with her boyfriend the same day she met Jack and asked if she could pursue a relationship with him. Faced with Rose's bold confession, Jack became nervous. Emma visited her uncle's house and saw Rose leaving hurriedly, but she did not suspect that Rose was having a secret affair with her uncle. Later, Rose told Sarah about her encounter with Jack, expressing disappointment that Jack had kicked her out after she confessed her feelings. Sarah remarked that Jack was immature and typical of someone who denied their emotions when they liked someone. She even suggested that Jack might have rejected Rose's drafts on purpose to get closer to her, indicating that Jack may already have feelings for Rose. Emma was surprised that Jack had left after inviting someone for drinks, thinking her uncle did not grasp romance. She suggested he take pointers from Anthony in pursuing someone and to be more assertive. Rose noticed that Jack had not turned down her advances. She proceeded to send him numerous text messages that evening. After that, Rose intended to have a meeting with Arthur in order to acquire valuable insights into the future growth of cloud creation. When Rose called Arthur for guidance, Jack, who was in a meeting with him, overheard their conversation and felt a tinge of jealousy. Rose reached out to Jack, expecting him to approve the final draft promptly. Unfortunately, Jack purposely ignored Rose's messages. Consequently, the entire Finance Digest team was putting in extra hours, anxiously waiting for Rose's article to be approved. Rose messaged Jack to ask if he had been jealous before. Jack denied feeling jealous. Sarah advised Rose to ignore Jack for a while. Rose thought this would make Jack curious and intrigued. Rose kept sending Jack sincere messages of love. Even though Jack read and enjoyed Rose's messages, he chose not to respond directly. During the Qin dynasty, a reporter from Jiangxing Daily approached Rose to exchange WeChat information. This interaction made Jack very jealous, prompting him to call Rose over. Rose suspected Jack's jealousy and approached him with enthusiasm. However, to her surprise, Jack inquired about the whereabouts of Emma. Rose contacted Emma and falsely informed Jack that Emma had already left. She did this because she found Jack's presence intimidating, unlike her own feelings of happiness and excitement upon seeing him. Emma was taken by surprise when he ran into Arthur in the lobby and was impressed by his stylish and graceful demeanor. The second part of the press conference commenced, and Emma discovered that Arthur was a strategic advisor for Guan Capital, increasing her admiration for him. Meanwhile, Rose observed Jack shadowing Emma closely. This led her to leave the press conference in a state of annoyance. To her astonishment, outside the venue, Rose witnessed Emma acting affectionately with Jack, stirring up feelings of jealousy within her. Consequently, Rose left in a hurry. Jack accompanied Rose to the parking lot, and noticing her unease, he took her hand and proposed to give her a ride home. On the other hand, Emma reached out Arthur, introducing herself and trying to start a conversation, but he didn't give her any interest, and he left. Rose dozed off in Jack's car once more and awakened at her front door. In appreciation for the lift, she asked Jack to join her for dinner, but he turned down the offer upon learning that Rose intended to talk about a particular interview. Rose's interview was well received by the editor-in-chief, leading her colleagues to playfully suggest she treat them to dinner, a suggestion that she enthusiastically accepted. On Emma's first day at work, she misunderstood the situation when Rose ignored her, leading her to complain to Jack out of anger. Feeling guilty, she desired to apologize to Rose but was hesitant to do it alone, considering asking her uncle Jack for assistance. Regrettably, Jack's response was hurtful, causing Emma to suppress her pride and approach Rose for an apology. Rose was worried about the connection between Emma and Jack. She had started to have feelings for Jack, and Sarah warned her that Jack had a tendency to live on the edge. Sarah suggested that if a relationship was unlikely to last, it might be wise not to begin it. Despite this advice, Rose believed in listening to her heart in matters of relationships. Rose purchased tickets for Song Leland's concert and initially intended to invite Jack through WeChat. However, Emma added Rose on WeChat to offer an apology, causing Rose to mistakenly assume it was Jack. She then directly asked Emma to join her at Song Leland's concert, and Emma agreed, much to Rose's delight. Anthony came across news about Song Leland's 25th anniversary concert and expressed a desire to attend with Sarah. After reflecting on Rose's advice, Sarah decided to follow her heart in matters of romance and accepted Anthony's invitation to join him at Song Leland's concert. Rose looked stunning as she made her way to the concert hall, eagerly anticipating Jack's arrival. Much to her astonishment, Emma suddenly appeared before her, revealing that she had invited Rose to attend the concert. It dawned on Rose that she had confused the WeChat name, leading her to rue her mistake. Despite her regrets, she had no other option but to accompany Emma to the concert. Little did Rose know that Jack was also present at the concert. During the event, Rose and Emma discussed Rose's previous encounter with an individual who prioritized money over relationships. It was revealed that this person had a well-off relative, and Emma encouraged Rose to consider pursuing a relationship with this wealthy family member. After the show, Emma unexpectedly ran into Arthur and then made a request to her mother, Song Leland, for some exclusive albums to give to him. Arthur also spotted Rose and arranged for an interview the following week. This caused Jack, who had seen them at the concert, to assume they were going together to the concert. Jack, feeling jealous, initially ignored Rose, who was hailing a taxi alone. However, when he witnessed Rose stumbling, he felt compelled to drive her to the hospital. Rose purposely acted as if she couldn't walk due to foot pain in the hopes of eliciting sympathy from Jack, leading him to finally carry her. Rose pretended that she is in pain actually to make Jack carry her again. However, he overheard her telling the doctor to say so. Knowing that she is all right, he brought her a wheelchair, forcing her to use it. A cat came near by forcing her to jump over the wheelchair, causing her to be caught by Jack. On their way back, Anthony reached out to Jack concerning the possibility of contacting his ex-girlfriend for a film project. Jack responded by openly criticizing his ex-girlfriend's acting abilities, causing Rose to feel deeply embarrassed. Once dropping Rose off at her home, Jack joined his sister Song Leland and Emma, who's her daughter, for dinner. During their meal, Jack found out from Emma that Rose had invited her to a concert that evening. This revelation made Jack realize that he had misunderstood the dynamics between Rose and Arthur. Emma, observing the change in Jack's behavior, began to suspect that her uncle had romantic feelings and decided to investigate the identity of his love interest. Rose inquired with Jack regarding the costs incurred during the hospital visit, and Jack seized the chance to connect with her on WeChat. Rose, displaying flirtatious behavior, hinted at wanting Jack to take her out for dinner the following day. Nevertheless, Jack, considering the upcoming gathering, opted to have Rose accompany him to the event instead. The following day, while looking for a dress for the party, Rose unexpectedly ran into her ex-boyfriend John and his girlfriend while shopping. She immediately informed Emma, who quickly arrived to show her support. Emma joined them at the store to back up Rose and ended up buying the outfits Rose had tried on. Upon her return home, Rose was greeted by Jack, who praised her appearance. It wasn't until they arrived at the party venue that Rose discovered they were attending a family gathering. Many people at the gathering assumed she was Jack's new girlfriend. Upon encountering Rose again, John felt torn and decided to contact her, causing Rose to be distressed by her deceitful ex-boyfriend once more. Rose overheard rumors about Jack feeling low after breaking up with his ex-girlfriend Balin. People were also speculating that Balin was only interested in Jack because of his family background. This news frustrated Rose. As Jack was walking Rose home, he noticed her unhappiness and asked her what was wrong. Rose confessed that she had heard some gossip about Jack that day but didn't believe any of it. She also shared her genuine desire to get to know Jack better, which only piqued Jack's interest even more. Despite wanting to kiss Rose in the tension-filled moment, the two were interrupted by a security guard passing by, leaving Rose feeling embarrassed. Rose phoned Sarah to discuss what had happened that day. Sarah expressed her belief that men have a natural instinct to conquer and suggested that Rose should make Jack feel like he is also receiving attention from other men, which would prompt him to take the lead. Upon observing Sarah's romantic advice to her friend, Anthony inquired whether she was not afraid of someone developing genuine feelings for her. Sarah responded confidently, stating that her only concern was not being able to end the relationship, and we discover that their relation is not serious. But when Sarah was injured, she noticed that Anthony is caring about her, actually starting to develop real feelings for him. After that, Rose's mother contacted her to set up a blind date for the upcoming weekend. After viewing the WeChat profile provided by her mother, Rose recognized him as Arthur and decided to meet him as acquaintances. Sally gave the responsibility of finalizing the financial headline for the next month to Rose and Emily to collaborate on. Even though they had different opinions, they agreed to the arrangement made by the chief editor. Over the weekend, Rose and Arthur met for a blind date, with Arthur being surprised to see her as the date. Jack requested Rose to retrieve her clothes left in his car, and she jokingly asked him for help, but he refused, saying he was too busy. When Jack found out that Rose planned to pick them up herself, he quickly went home to prepare dinner. Emma invited Jack to have dinner at his place, but Jack declined, saying he had prior commitments. After Jack finished cooking the meal, Rose unexpectedly showed up at his door. She thoroughly enjoyed the food without realizing it was prepared by Jack. Sally had a task for Rose, so she left quickly after the meal, taking her clothes with her. Sally made arrangements for Rose to travel to Wuching for an international forum. Prior to the trip, Rose returned the clothing purchased by Emma as a show of support. Upon discovering that Rose had previously interviewed Arthur, Emma secretly attended Arthur's lecture at the university. Following the class, Emma approached Arthur, asked to connect with him on WeChat, and mentioned that she was working as an intern journalist for Kaijingjia. She clarified that her purpose for attending his lecture was to gain knowledge about finance. Although Arthur noticed Emma's lack of focus during the lecture, he did not question her real reasons for attending the finance class. Due to leaving Jack's home hastily during her last visit, Rose had upset him, causing him to avoid communication with her. Seeking advice from Sarah, she was advised to capture photos of intriguing things and share them on social media as a way to indirectly notify Jack of her absence on a work-related trip. Jack was informed by Emma that Rose had returned the clothes she purchased, leading to a refund message. Emma also mentioned that Rose was currently on a business trip in Wuchang. Meanwhile, Sarah, who was also in Wuchang for business, had initially planned to meet with Anthony. However, Sarah changed her mind and told Anthony that she was not in Jiang City before abruptly hanging up on him. Sarah captured stunning photos of Rose amidst the first snowfall in Wuchang and shared them on WeChat along with a post about making a wish in the snow, hoping this would entice Jack to visit Wuchang. Jack checked Rose's social media and reached out to her. He informed her that Guan Xiangqing was interested in meeting her. Rose discovered that Guan Xiangqing was open to being interviewed by her, so she made the decision to return to Jiang City. While on her way to Guan Xiangqing's residence, Rose was involved in a car accident. Upon hearing about the incident, Jack hurried to pick up Rose. During the interview at Guan Xiangqing's home, Rose and Guan Xiangqing had a lively conversation that made them lose track of time. Jack eventually reminded them to have dinner together. During their discussion, she jokingly requested him to peel the shrimp for her. However, Jack refused, so Rose ended up peeling the shrimp on her own and feeding it to him, much to Jack's delight. Sally informed Emily that she would not be able to have the front page feature for the current month because Rose had already submitted an interview about Guan Xiangqing earlier in the day. Emily blamed Rose for deliberately targeting her after losing the chance to be on the front page. She suspected that Rose used her beauty to influence someone to interview Guan Xiangqing. Rose remained calm and did not get upset. After that, Emma, her mother, and her uncle gathered for a family dinner where she talked about the events at the office that day. From Emma's conversation, Jack found out that Rose was quite popular and was often pursued by male colleagues at the company. Jack received an invitation from Rose to have a meal together over the weekend as a gesture of gratitude. Rose was getting ready to meet Jack when her mother unexpectedly showed up and took her out to dinner with Arthur. Emma had originally planned to go to the movies with Arthur over the weekend, but he declined, citing his elderly relatives as the reason. Emma then asked Rose to watch a movie together, but she declined, saying she had to be with her mother, which left Emma feeling frustrated. After dinner, Rose intended to meet Jack, but her mother decided to go for a walk and left her with Arthur. To make matters worse, her mother bought movie tickets for them to see together, leaving Rose feeling powerless. She ended up sending Jack a text message apologizing for the situation and suggesting they have dinner on another occasion. Emma watched the movie by herself, but she used the chance to discuss the movie's plot with Arthur through messaging. Arthur was surprised to find out that Emma was also watching the same movie simultaneously. Emma encountered Arthur at the entrance of the cinema. She then requested Arthur to drive her home, and Arthur, being a gentleman, accepted. Emma noticed some lipstick and assumed it belonged to his girlfriend, but Arthur did not explain the situation, resulting in a misunderstanding. Upon arriving home, Rose discovered Jack waiting for her. Jack had overheard her phone call with her mother and inquired about the person she had spent the day with. She felt compelled to lie to Jack, stating that she had gone to see a movie with her mother before quickly heading home. But he pushes her against the car suspiciously, asking to call her mother to prove it.